Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to talk about a lot of short stories from the Star Wars Galaxy Guide number 3 written by West End Games. I don't really have authors for any of these because there was no author listed on there. I'd assume it was the editor, but again, I'm not sure since several other people were asked to come in and guess right. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about this already, West End Games had a bunch of excellent source books back in the day for their role-playing games, but they also decided in between the pages, which is a tradition that was kept up from Fantasy Flight, that they would write little blurbs, little like short stories on some of the pages. It was either half a page or, in these cases, a whole page or maybe a whole 2 pages at times. But they were just little short stories of accounts, usually, of what happened here, or little short stories, side stories for this and that. And so I'm going to talk about just a few of those here today. Now, the first one is called Har By Night. And in this one, you have a witness account of the Wampa attacks. Oh, dark, stormy. Luke Skywalker, Commander Skywalker was missing. You know, there's a howling wind. It's freezing. There's a scream in the hallways. I mean, and when you're reading this, you're thinking, why didn't they write a novel about this? Honestly, the Wampa attacking the base was a story that George Lucas had come up with because of Mark Hamill's bicycle accident, which left a scar on his face, and he had to write in Wampas to explain how Luke got the scar, since the actor had the scar. Now, that led to a big adventure going on at Hoth Base, that the rebels were getting invaded by Wampas, which would have been really cool. Now, in the Blu-ray, they do have some of the deleted footage of this. And in the actual movie, you see, I think the rib cage of a Wampa a Tauntaun who'd been eaten out by a Wampa. So you can tell they're in the base, or they've been there before, or the rebellion's been having problems with Wampas. Man, just reading, and I think this was only like a page long, this short story was, but just reading that eyewitness account of what happened that horrible night is so intriguing. While Han and Luke are, setting up tents and having a camping trip in Hoth, on Hoth's planet, it may be even worse to have been inside the base that night because they were having problems with Wampas coming through. Ah, so cool. Even in the deleted scenes of the DVD, the Blu-ray, you see that Wampa like pawing at the ice trying to get in, and maybe his paw coming through, and maybe they're all coming through and everything. It is so interesting. So when I reread the short story, and every time I was rereading it, I was going, wow, I could see this. I can see this as the movie. And maybe they should have made a different, kind of they did in another novel, or later on when they go back to Hoth, they actually have an adventure like that. But I really wish someone would do a detailed account of what happened that night. I think that could be an entire movie, setting up on the Hoth base, weird things happening, maybe a few people disappearing. Oh, my imagination is running wild. But anyway, that was the first short story. The second one is called One Step Ahead, and it basically goes hand in hand with the previous story. And One Step Ahead, 3PO and the rest of the gang are running away from the snowtroopers. And 3PO, and this is also off of a deleted scene, 3PO quickly sees the label, the warning label on the door where they've trapped some Wampas inside that room, and they're telling people do not open it. So he goes and he rips that sign off. Now, this was actually in the Empire Strikes Back, one of their trailers was 3PO ripping that warning sign off, but it never got seen in the movie. Now, of course, later on the Blu-ray, they did have that deleted scene, which I was super thankful about because I'd heard about it for years and finally got to see it. And this is basically just a short story covering that event. I mean, very short. Someone saw the deleted footage a long time ago, probably, back in the Lucasfilm archives, and wrote a short story about it. I mean, just wrote what they saw. So, besides that, though, it is kind of neat to read about it. And like I said, that should have been included in that Wampa story, novel that I keep talking about, hoping for, wishing for. The next one is called In the Trenches, and this one is basically just an eyewitness account of the Battle of Hoth. Again, I would love to see an actual story where they can hear the the thunder, the steps, the rumbling of the earth as the four-legged walkers are coming up on them, the terror that's seizing up inside them, the chill of the snow as they're hip deep in it with the guns planted, knowing that they have no chance. They're just there to be a line of defense to stall them as the evacuation takes place. Oh, again, another brilliant idea for a novel. And when I reread this little short story, In the Trenches, it's not that good. But the thing is, though, it gets your mind thinking, oh yeah, they know they're doomed. They know they do not stand a chance against this Imperial attack. And they know they're screwed. Their weapons are not going to defeat them. And so they are there to die, basically, and just, sacrifice themselves so that everyone else can evacuate. Oh, what a predicament. And leave it up to West End Games to put that in your head. So the idea is better than the short story in this case. And finally, the last one is called Running the Gauntlet. This one is basically Wedge's account of the evacuation of Hoth, how they're trying to, how they save basically one of the transports from blowing up because they attack this Imperial vessel and get it, shoot it down before it can shoot down the evacuation ship. It's neat. It's not the Wedge that we know and love from the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series, but it's a very brief and short account of the adventure. Again, I would love to see this story of the Battle of Hoth too. There you go. 2 excellent novel ideas from all of these short stories that were listed in the Galaxy Guide. Hey, but that's not all. I got more, and I'll talk about them next time. See you then.